Are you letting your fear of being seen control you? Are you afraid of what people will think of you if you put yourself out there so you don't do anything at all? Friends, perfectionism is the thief of joy. It's also the enemy of action, the enemy of success. A lot of agents that I coach are afraid to put themselves out there. They are frozen in inaction because of what someone might think about them. It's time to stop that. If you happen to be one of those people who find themselves frozen in inaction, well, it's time to stop that. You deserve all the joy and all the success. Welcome to the Savvy Agent Podcast, where we help real estate agents build a thriving business so they have financial freedom in their life without having to work 24/7. I'm your host, Heather Wright. Now let's get to it. If there's one thing I would change about myself, it's how long I let the fear of what other people think rule my actions. If you're in hiding or not speaking up for fear of what people will think, I encourage you to do the work to stop that. Perfectionism truly is the thief of joy. It's time to give yourself some grace and start doing the work that will help you build your business. So, what are some examples of being afraid of being seen? Well, maybe you have thought, what if they don't like what I have to say? Like if you post something on social media, what if nobody likes it? You do a Facebook Live, what if nobody watches it? What if I don't do it right? What if I do it totally wrong? What if they don't like me because I'm too fat or too tall or too white or too black or too brown, or I have blonde hair or brown hair? Insert any other ridiculous physical feature about yourself that somebody might judge you on. What if they don't like me because I'm ugly? What if they don't like me because I'm too pretty? What if they don't like me because I'm me? So my answer to every single one of those what if sentences is who cares? Who cares if they don't like what you have to say? They're not your people. Who cares if they don't like you because you're ugly? Oh my God, that's terrible. So who cares about that person? What if they don't like you because you're fat? Oh my God, same thing. Who cares? Like that's about them more than it is about you. And somebody listening to this might say, "Oh my gosh, well you should totally encourage somebody to not be fat." Yeah, as a fat person, I get that. But also it's not a reason for somebody to not like you. And if they don't like you because of that, it's more about them than it is about you. So let's talk about what is the worst thing that will happen if that fear comes true? What if they don't like you because of what you have to say, or you did it totally wrong, or you're too fat, or too ugly, or too pretty, whatever? What is the worst that will happen if that fear comes true? And I'm reminded of this story that I heard about Dave Chappelle, who is a really funny comedian, far from perfect. Early in his career, he was on stage at the Apollo Theater and doing his comedy act. It was amateur night. And he is a human being. So, of course, he had the same thoughts that we would all have. Oh my God, what if nobody thinks I'm funny? And he didn't know, what's the worst case scenario? What would happen if nobody thought Dave Chappelle was funny? Well, apparently nobody did think he was funny. And what happened was they booed him off the stage. Everybody in the crowd was booing, even old people. And why old people were singled out is, I'm guessing, because they're old enough to know better how impolite and rude it is to boo somebody off the stage. So that was in an interview that I read, that even old people were booing. And so afterwards, he realized, okay, well, that sucked. But also he survived. It didn't kill him. So what is the worst thing that would happen if people don't think you're funny when you're Dave Chappelle? Well, the worst thing that would happen is you get booed off the stage at the Apollo Theater. Yeah, that's pretty bad. But it also gave him the courage to keep moving forward, because the worst that would happen, he already survived it. And you have probably already survived the worst that will happen to you. And I want you to remember that at the end of the day, people really only care about themselves. We're a very selfish human race. And if you think about it, when you're laying down, when you put your little head on your pillow at night and you're reflecting on your day, you're probably not thinking about other people. You might be thinking about what other people think about you, but that's a thought about you, not about them. And so that's just something I want you to remember, that at the end of the day, people aren't thinking about you. They're thinking about themselves. So don't give your power away to someone when it's really just in your head that that's happening. You care about you. And when you care about you, you're going to give yourself some grace and let yourself put yourself out there, because what's the worst that will happen? Well, worst case scenario, yeah, you're going to do it wrong. You're going to get it not quite right. People are not going to agree with you 100% of the time, just like you don't agree with everyone else 100% of the time. If we all agreed with each other all the time, what a dull and boring world we would live in. And if somebody doesn't like you because you're fat or you're too skinny or you don't have the right color skin or you're blonde or you have curly hair or whatever silly physical reason, that's on them. When you meet someone, do you decide if you don't like them because they're fat? Probably not. Do you decide to not like someone because of the color of their skin? Well, I certainly hope not. Physical attributes probably have nothing to do with whether or not you like someone, do they? So if you're not making decisions based on someone's physical attributes, on whether or not you like them, why would you expect other people to use that against you to decide whether or not you're worth their time? I mean, that's kind of silly. So what is the worst that can happen? What if they don't like what I have to say? Worst case scenario, maybe it's a troll, one of those, somebody you don't even know who comments on your post or your video on Facebook or YouTube, wherever, and they tell you how wrong and stupid you are. Okay, cool. Hey, thanks for sharing your perspective. Let's agree to disagree, or delete the post and block the user. Just because they insert themselves into your world doesn't mean that they have an invitation to remain in your world. What if they truly don't agree with what you have to say? Well, maybe you can have a conversation about that. Maybe you're wrong. Maybe they're wrong. Maybe just knowing someone else's perspective will give you an opportunity for growth. None of that's really a worst case scenario situation. It just is sort of everyday life. Now, what if you don't do it right or you do it totally wrong? Whatever it is, well, such is life. You're not perfect. Nobody is. You're a human being. You learn best from making mistakes. So, what if you do it totally wrong? What if you do a YouTube video on your favorite community in your town and you do it totally wrong? Well, probably no one's going to watch it. Or maybe you do it so wrong that it becomes a viral sensation and it gets millions of views. I mean, that's embarrassing. But if you did it wrong, how could you correct that? Could you raise your hand and just say, guys, I totally did that wrong. Wow, I did not know it was going to go like that. I'm a little embarrassed because in hindsight, I feel like I should have known better. But at the time that I did it, I didn't know any better. And I'm going to do a better job next time. When you were learning how to walk, you didn't just get up and walk. You fell down a lot. But nobody shames babies for not knowing how to walk. So why should you shame yourself for getting something totally wrong or you didn't do it right the first time? Now, I'm not talking about things that violate the code of ethics or rules and laws in our community and state that we live in. I'm talking about trying new things and putting yourself out there. If you are an asshole in general, well, that's different than just trying something new and doing it totally wrong. So don't think that this is permission to unleash your worst possible person on the world. We're talking about putting yourself out there and it doesn't go quite right, or it doesn't go right at all. But even if you put a video out there and it was so wrong that it went viral, well, people they're going to say what they're going to say. You're going to have your 15 minutes of viral fame, and then you're going to do another video. And you're probably going to be disappointed that it doesn't go viral, that it doesn't get millions of views. And maybe you'll even decide, hey, I like doing it wrong better because it gets more attention. I don't know. But none of that really sounds like anything too terrible. And what if they don't like you because you're too fat or too tall, which are two things that I have in my head, oh, they're not going to like me because I'm overweight. They're not going to like me because I'm too tall. I take up too much space. Oh, they're going to hate me. What if you're too skinny? Is that a problem? Do skinny people have people hate them for being too skinny? Maybe. What if you're ugly or too pretty? Everybody has the same fears. They're not going to like me because I'm me. And what's the worst that can happen? Well, they let you know they don't like you and you can move on. Maybe your feelings are hurt for a minute. I get that. My feelings would probably be hurt too. But also, if you find out that somebody does not like you, isn't that a blessing of sorts? Aren't you then given the opportunity to spend your time somewhere else? Maybe it's a first impression gone bad and you give it a second try, maybe a third try. But if they don't like you, they're not going to follow you. They're not going to give you any attention. And if they do give you negative attention, well, block them from your life. Get rid of them. If it's a family member, that doesn't mean that you're required to hang out with them on social media. You can see them at Thanksgiving and Christmas and be done with it for the other 363 days of the year. But at the end of the day, the people who don't like you or don't appreciate you, they're just not your people. And if I were you, I would focus on finding your people. And maybe your people don't want to be seen either, but they're watching you, whether you know it or not. I realize that this is easier said than done, but trust me, these are the same things that I tell myself when I'm having a moment of wanting to stay a secret agent or invisible. I don't want people to see me. Another thing to keep in mind, picture the most perfect person you know. They never make a mistake. They never say the wrong thing. They always look put together. They're beautiful. They're perfect. Everything about them is on point all the time. Do you really love that person or do you kind of hate that person? More often than not, the person that is perfect is hated. And you don't want to be hated. So, constantly striving to never make a mistake, to always be perfect is really striving to be hated. No, we do not want that at all. So release those thoughts. Let the ideal of being perfect go. That is not what you want. You don't want to be hated. You want to be loved for the imperfect person that you are. There are more people out there that will love you, and those people need you to help them in real estate. They don't think for a second what you look like or what you say. They accept it all. And being afraid of what people think on social media, I mean, if you think about it, that's kind of ridiculous. Being afraid of what people that may not even know you think on the internet is silly. Especially when people meet you in person, well, they're kind and personable, and you have the ability to build a relationship and they like you. So just remind yourself that who gives a shit what those people who don't love you think, because they're not your people. And it takes courage. It takes practice. You have to do this over and over and over and over. And it does get easier. But just remember, your people are out there. And they need you. And if you're not putting yourself out there for them to find you, well, who are you really doing a disservice to? Well, both you and them, because you're the one that has the ability to help them find you. Now, if you're being a secret agent and not being seen because you just don't know what to say, that's totally different. And I've got a great solution for that. Visit visibleagent.co and get my Visible Agent Inspiration Bank, where you'll have over 500 content prompts to inspire all your content. No, you don't have to do a Facebook Live for every single thing. You can type your content out to your heart's content, so you can sort of still stay invisible while you're being visible, but you'll never have to worry about what to say on social media again. Thanks very much for listening, and take care until next time.